Hello, passionate Celtic FC fans. This is Celtic Central News, your exclusive source for Celtic updates. Before we kick off, we appreciate the incredible support. If you love Celtic, subscribe now, hit like, and let's build this community together. Now, onto the latest news. A warm welcome to new subscribers. Your support is crucial. Hail, hail. There are moments in football that feel heavier than any final whistle. Moments where the game itself seems to pause and take a breath, and this is one of them. Kasper Schmeichel, a name that echoes through modern football history with grit, leadership, and that unmistakable presence between the sticks, has opened his heart in a way that few players ever dare to. When he says it might have been his last match, it doesn't feel like a headline. It feels like a quiet storm rolling across the sport. You can almost hear the disbelief in his voice, the kind that comes from a man who has lived and breathed football since he was a wee lad, growing up in the shadow and guidance of a legendary father, carving out his own identity through sheer resilience. Now, standing at the edge of uncertainty, he faces something far more daunting than any striker charging at him. It isn't just about pain or recovery. It is about identity, purpose, and the fear of a story ending before he's ready to close the book. What makes this situation even more gutting is the timing and the stage of his life. Nearing 40, Schmeichel isn't just another player dealing with injury. He is a veteran whose body has already weathered countless battles. Each dive, each collision, each moment of sacrifice etched into muscle and bone. When a player at this stage suffers a setback, it carries a different weight altogether. It isn't simply about missing a few matches or sitting out a season. It becomes a question of whether the body can ever return to the level demanded by elite football. His words carry that raw honesty, admitting that he is struggling to accept what has happened, and you can't help but feel the emotional toll behind it. This is a man who has always fought, always responded, always found a way, yet now he faces an opponent that doesn't play by the usual rules, a challenge that can't be beaten with instinct or reflex alone. Then there is the image of him speaking alongside his father, a moment layered with history, pride, and a shared understanding of the game's cruel twists. Peter Schmeichel, himself a giant of the sport, knows better than most what it takes to endure and overcome, but even he can't shield his son from this reality. That dynamic adds a deeply human dimension to the story, reminding us that beyond the gloves and the headlines, there are families, legacies, and emotions intertwined. When Kasper speaks about the possibility of the end, it isn't just his own journey he reflects on, but a lifetime shaped by football, from childhood dreams to Premier League glory. The vulnerability in that moment is striking, because we are so used to seeing goalkeepers as figures of authority, commanding, unshakable. Yet here he stands, facing doubt in its purest form. And let's not forget what he has already achieved, because that context makes the situation even more poignant. This is the same goalkeeper who stood tall during one of the most remarkable seasons in football history, leading Leicester City to a title that defied logic and expectation. That triumph was built on belief, discipline, and a refusal to accept limits, qualities that defined Schmeichel's career. To now see him confronted with a challenge that might not be overcome through sheer willpower alone feels almost unfair. Yet, in his own words, there is still that flicker of determination, that refusal to surrender without a fight. He speaks about doing everything possible, about pushing through rehabilitation, about chasing what would arguably be one of the greatest comebacks of his career. It is that spirit that has always set him apart. The physical reality of his situation, however, is brutally unforgiving. We are not talking about a single injury that can be managed or eased back into fitness. This is a combination of severe damage that would test even the youngest and most resilient athlete. The recovery timeline alone stretches close to a full year, a period that, in football terms, can feel like an eternity. During that time, the game moves on, squads evolve, and opportunities slip away. For a goalkeeper approaching 40, every month matters. Every setback carries multiplied consequences. It is a race not just against time, but against the limits of the human body. And while modern medicine has done incredible things, there are no guarantees, especially with injuries of this magnitude. What truly hits home is the way he frames the challenge ahead, comparing it to a catastrophic scenario in another sport, trying to make people understand just how serious it is. When an athlete feels the need to explain their injury in such stark terms, you know it isn't just bad, it is life-changing. This isn't about returning in a few weeks with a bandage and a brave face. This is about reconstructing the very foundation of his ability to perform. And yet, despite everything, he insists on fighting, on pushing forward, on refusing to let this be the final chapter without resistance. That determination is both inspiring and heartbreaking, because while it gives hope, it also highlights just how steep the climb ahead truly is. When you break down the injury itself, it becomes even clearer why the situation feels so grave. This isn't a single tear or a simple dislocation that can be patched up and forgotten with time. It is a cascade of damage that affects multiple critical structures within the shoulder, each one essential for a goalkeeper's performance. The bicep rupture alone would be a serious issue, impacting strength and stability, but when combined with a torn rotator cuff, the problem escalates dramatically. The rotator cuff is vital for movement and control, especially for a goalkeeper who relies on explosive reactions and precise positioning. Add to that a dislocated shoulder and a damaged glenoid labrum, and you are looking at a complete breakdown of the joint's integrity. It is the kind of injury that shakes even the most experienced medical professionals. For a goalkeeper, the shoulder isn't just another joint. It is central to almost everything they do. Every dive, every save, every attempt to command the box depends on the strength and reliability of that area. Without it, even the most basic actions become difficult, let alone performing at the highest level of the game. Schmeichel's description of losing everything in that moment isn't an exaggeration. It is a reflection of how interconnected those structures are. When they fail together, the impact is devastating. It isn't just about pain. It is about losing the ability to trust your own body, something that every elite athlete depends on. Rebuilding that trust is often just as challenging as the physical recovery itself, especially when the margin for error in professional football is so incredibly small. The road to recovery will demand more than just physical effort. It will require mental resilience of the highest order. Rehabilitation from such complex injuries is long, repetitive, and often frustrating. There are no quick wins, no dramatic breakthroughs, just slow, incremental progress that can test even the most determined individuals. For someone like Schmeichel, who has spent his entire life competing, adapting to that pace can be incredibly difficult. The absence of the game, the separation from teammates, and the uncertainty about the future all combine to create a psychological challenge that is just as significant as the physical one. Yet, if there is one thing his career has shown, it is that he possesses the kind of mindset needed to endure hardship. There is also the broader context of international football to consider, as this injury rules him out of crucial matches for his national side. Representing your country is something that carries immense pride, and missing out on such opportunities adds another layer of disappointment to an already painful situation. For a player who has given so much to the game, those moments are irreplaceable. They are the culmination of years of dedication, the chance to stand on the biggest stages and compete against the best. To have that taken away, even temporarily, is a bitter pill to swallow. And when there is a possibility that it might be permanent, the emotional weight becomes even heavier, lingering in every step of the recovery process. Despite all of this, there remains a sense that this story isn't finished just yet. Football has a way of producing remarkable comebacks, moments where players defy expectations and return stronger than anyone thought possible. Schmeichel himself acknowledges that if he manages to come back from this, it would rank among the greatest achievements of his career. That perspective is telling, because it shows that he still sees a path forward, however narrow it may be. It isn't blind optimism, but a measured determination, grounded in the understanding of what lies ahead. He knows the odds, he knows the risks, yet he chooses to fight anyway, to give himself a chance, no matter how slim it might appear from the outside. In the end, what we are witnessing is more than just an injury update. It is a deeply human story about resilience, identity, and the uncertain nature of a sporting career. Whether this truly marks the end or becomes the beginning of an extraordinary comeback, it will stand as a defining chapter in Schmeichel's journey. The game may move on, as it always does, But moments like this remind us why we care in the first place. It isn't just about goals, saves, or trophies. It is about the people behind them, their struggles, their hopes, and their refusal to give in when everything seems to be slipping away. And for now, all that remains is to watch, to hope, and to respect the fight of a man who has given everything to the sport he loves. And as this story continues to unfold, there is a growing sense across the football world that everyone is quietly holding their breath, waiting to see what comes next. Supporters, former teammates, pundits, and even rivals understand the magnitude of what Kasper Schmeichel is facing, because situations like this transcend club loyalties and competitive divides. There is a shared respect for longevity, for dedication, and for those who have consistently given their all to the game. When a figure like him speaks openly about the possibility of the end, it resonates far beyond his own circle. It becomes a moment of reflection for the sport itself, a reminder of how fragile even the most enduring careers can be. The uncertainty creates a strange kind of tension, not the excitement of a match, but a deeper emotional investment in the outcome of his recovery. Inside the dressing room environment, the absence of a player like Schmeichel is felt in ways that go far beyond his performances on the pitch. Goalkeepers often act as leaders, organizers, and voices of experience, guiding younger players and maintaining structure during moments of chaos. His presence, built over years of top-level competition, brings a calm authority that can't easily be replaced. When that voice is suddenly removed, it creates a gap that is as psychological as it is tactical. Teammates must adapt, not only to a different figure in goal, but to a shift in the overall dynamic of the squad. For younger players especially, losing that kind of mentorship can be significant, as they are forced to step up and take on responsibilities earlier than expected. There is also the personal battle that unfolds away from the cameras, in training rooms and rehabilitation centers, where progress is measured in the smallest of increments. Day after day, repetition becomes the core of recovery, rebuilding strength, restoring movement, and gradually pushing the limits of what the body can handle. It is a process that demands patience, something that doesn't always come naturally to elite athletes who are used to constant competition and immediate results. Each minor setback can feel magnified, each moment of doubt lingering longer than it should. Yet, within that grind lies the foundation for any potential return. It is where determination is tested not in front of crowds, but in quiet, unseen moments that define whether a comeback is truly possible. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. At the same time, questions about the future inevitably begin to surface, not just about whether he can return, but about what comes after football. For someone who has spent an entire life immersed in the game, the idea of stepping away can feel almost unimaginable. Football isn't just a profession, it is a routine, a structure, a sense of belonging. Transitioning away from that world requires a shift in identity that can be just as challenging as recovering from injury. Whether it leads to coaching, punditry, or a completely different path, those decisions carry weight, especially when they are forced into consideration earlier than expected. It is a crossroads that many players eventually face, but rarely under such sudden and uncertain circumstances. Still, through all the doubt and difficulty, there remains a quiet resilience in the way Schmeichel approaches what lies ahead. He doesn't speak like someone who has accepted defeat, but rather like someone who understands the scale of the challenge and is willing to confront it head-on. That mindset, forged over decades in the game, could prove to be his greatest asset in the months to come. Whether it leads to one final return to the pitch or marks the closing chapter of a remarkable career, it ensures that his story will be defined not by how it ends, but by how he chooses to face this moment. And in a sport that thrives on narratives of courage and perseverance, that alone is something worth following closely. Ultimately, what makes this story so compelling is the way it continues to exist in that space between confirmation and conjecture. Nothing has been finalized, nothing has been declared beyond doubt, and yet the feeling that something significant is approaching refuses to fade. McGregor's words have set a narrative in motion that now seems impossible to stop, drawing in voices from every corner of the football world. Whether this leads to a dramatic announcement or gradually settles into something less definitive remains to be seen, but the impact is already undeniable. For now, all eyes remain fixed on the captain, watching, listening, and waiting for the next clue, the next hint, the next moment that might bring clarity to a situation that has captured the imagination of so many. Until that clarity arrives, the speculation will continue to grow, feeding off every silence as much as every word. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.